Okay, let's unpack this heavy one.
It is a big one.
We're doing a deep dive into what is, I mean, it has to be one of the toughest, most emotionally charged questions a person can face.
Absolutely.
How do you definitively know when a relationship is in a rough patch that just, requires more effort versus when you've hit its true, unavoidable expiration date?
Right.
And our mission today, look, it's not to tell you what to do.
No, we can't do that.
But we want to give you the framework, sort of a cognitive checklist that the sources provide so you can move past all that emotional noise and look at the signals objectively.
And that emotional noise is exactly why it's so hard. I mean, the sources find people consistently ignore the clearest signs.
Just ignore them.
Yeah, it's comforting to stay where you are, to believe that everything's okay, even when it's really draining you.
And the fear of being alone is a huge factor in that.
It's probably the strongest factor keeping people tethered. It completely overrides rational assessment.
So it's like the perfect recipe for just staying stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to break down this navigation system. We'll start with those internal intuitive signals.
The ones that are hardest to argue with.
Then we'll get into the psychological logic traps that keep you stuck. And finally, we'll hit the hard clinical communication patterns from Dr. John Gottman.
Sounds good.
So let's start with what's happening inside, when that emotional foundation starts to crumble.
When your heart just knows.
When you look at the research, the first major warning sign, it isn't usually some huge public betrayal or a massive fight.
No.
It's that quiet, internal, incessant doubt. The kind that just won't go away. The paradox of having a good partner. I mean, they treat you well, they haven't done anything drastically wrong.
Right, on paper it looks perfect.
But inside, you just feel this slow, undeniable withdrawal.
And that intuition, that gut feeling, is so critical to trust. The sources really emphasize that your body is detecting something your mind is trying to logic away.
Like a missing connection.
A missing emotional connection, exactly. Think about those specific indicators. The spark is just gone.
Right.
Your heart doesn't skip a beat when they walk in. Those butterflies you used to get are just absent.
And that's your body's honest assessment, right?
Yeah.
That the connection you crave isn't there, and you can't force that chemistry back.
You can't. It's the difference between being comfortable with someone
and being truly connected, which leads right into the overall balance of happiness. If you were to track your emotional state, where does that scale tip?
You really have to ask yourself honestly, am I miserable more often than I am happy?
That feels so simple, but it's probably hard to admit.
It is, but our sources are very clear. If you find yourself tipping past 50% misery, you're in a serious, unhealthy danger zone.
Okay, but I have to push back a little on that. Isn't aiming for, 90% happiness setting the bar incredibly high?
That's a fair question.
I mean, we all know relationships take work, life is stressful. Doesn't that just set people up for failure?
It's a great point, and it's about managing expectations. The sources clarify what happiness means here.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're, in ecstatic bliss 24/7.
Of course not.
It means the relationship fundamentally brings you joy, security, inspiration. It means conflict gets handled well.
And it doesn't linger.
It doesn't linger as resentment,
Got
right?
it.
So that 90% metric is more like 9 out of 10 interactions should be positive or neutral, not fraught with tension.
So if you're constantly at 50-50, you're just perpetually struggling.
And the struggle becomes the defining feature of the relationship, not the love.
And that struggle, it shows up so quickly in a lack of vulnerability.
Oh, immediately.
If you realize you've stopped sharing what's really on your mind, you've already put up a wall.
Precisely. When that fun, engaging banter disappears, when you choose silence over sharing a deep concern because you just know you'll be dismissed or unheard,
You've cut the lifeline.
you've severed the emotional lifeline. And when that withdrawal is consistent, that is not a rough patch. That is a serious sign of two people drifting apart.
It's clear the emotions can get us stuck, but sometimes that's masking a more fundamental problem.
Under the surface, yeah.
So before we get to values, let's talk about why people ignore that doubt. What is the psychological mechanism the source material highlights?
Okay, so this is where we move from gut instinct to these really deep-seated defense mechanisms. And the primary trap is the sunk cost fallacy.
Right, the idea that we stay just because of the effort we've already put in, all those years, the shared history.
All that emotional energy.
But what's the flaw in protecting that investment? I mean, it feels logical to want to protect what you've built.
It feels logical, but it's the ultimate logical flaw because your future is being decided by an expense that is already gone.
Hmm.
The sources ask you to think about the opportunity cost. If you've spent 6 unhappy years and you stay another 6 just because you don't want to throw away the first 6,
You've just sacrificed 12 years.
you've sacrificed 12 years of potential happiness. The investment is gone if the relationship is failing. To keep investing is to actively choose misery.
That is such a powerful way to reframe it. You're not just wasting time now, you're losing the chance for a better future.
And that's related to just the raw fear of being alone or those external anchors.
Shared property, mutual friends, money.
Yeah, those things make leaving physically hard, but they are never, ever reasons to stay if you're miserable.
They're conveniences, not reasons for love.
Exactly. But once you get past those traps, you get to the really foundational stuff, shared direction and values.
This is so critical because conflicts usually fall into two buckets, right?
Yeah.
Conflicts of preference.
And conflicts of values, a key distinction.
So what's the difference?
Conflicts of preference are minor, manageable. You like the house cold, they like it warm.
Thai foods versus Italian.
Exactly. Things you can compromise on or just manage with respect.
But value conflicts are the immovable bedrock issues.
They define your life path. We're talking about fundamental conflicting views on marriage, kids, how you handle money, religion.
Where you live, your career.
Yeah, if one person values nomadic freedom and travel and the other values stability and putting down roots, those futures are just incompatible.
And the most irreconcilable one has to be kids. One
Yeah.
person wants them, the other is dead set against it.
There's no compromise there. Someone is going to suffer a fundamental disappointment, and that inability to envision a co-created future together, that's maybe the clearest structural sign that it's over.
Okay, so if the gut feeling is the first sign, and the logic traps are what keep us ignoring it, let's move to the clinical checklist.
The heavy hitters.
We are talking now about Dr. John Gottman's incredible research and his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Communication styles that consistently predict relationship failure.
And these aren't just, bad habits.
No, they're predictors because they erode respect and trust at an alarming rate. And it's important to say all couples do this sometimes.
Right, it's about the pattern.
It's the pervasive, consistent use that signals real danger.
Let's start with the first 2. Number 1 is criticism. And we need to be clear, this is so different from a simple complaint.
So different. A complaint focuses on a specific behavior. I wish you would help me with the dishes because I'm exhausted.
It's about an action.
Criticism attacks the person's character. The source material has that perfect, painful example. It changes that complaint too.
You're just a selfish jerk.
You never think about how I feel. You've gone from the action to attacking their very identity.
And when you attack someone's identity, the immediate natural response is the second horseman.
Defensiveness.
The attempt to defend yourself from that perceived attack by just shifting blame.
Exactly. So if one partner complains about the sex life being stale, the defensive response might be a counter-complaint, like, well, if you didn't nag me all the time, maybe I'd want to have sex with you.
You've taken zero responsibility.
None. And the partner just feels completely unheard, like their complaint was dismissed out of hand.
And that creates huge distance. But let's move to the really destructive final 2. Number 3 is contempt.
Contempt is devastating because it is pure disrespect. It's ridicule, sarcasm, eye-rolling, scoffing.
Outright insults.
The goal of contempt is to diminish the other person, to make them feel worthless or beneath you.
And I remember the research says contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. Why is it so much more damaging?
Because it signals a total lack of respect and affection. When contempt is present, animosity and resentment are just growing unchecked.
So if you're consistently making faces or using sarcasm at your partner,
you're signaling that you fundamentally believe you're superior to them. And if you hold your partner in contempt, the sources say the reason you're still together is probably fear or obligation.
not love.
Not love.
Which brings us to the 4th and final horseman, stonewalling.
This is usually a response to repeated contempt and criticism. It means communication has it's broken down.
It's the ultimate shutdown.
It is. It's a self-soothing mechanism, but it's devastating for the partner. The person literally shuts down, they avoid eye contact, they withdraw, they just stop responding.
You'd rather do anything else than have that conversation.
Exactly. When a relationship gets to the stage where one partner consistently walls off the other, recovery is so difficult. It's a very strong sign the dynamic is irreparably damaged.
Okay, so beyond those communication styles, the sources point to some other major behavioral red flags. And we have to start with the non-negotiable one.
Abuse. Yes, this is paramount.
Any instance of it.
Any instance of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse is a clear, non-negotiable red flag that the relationship has to end immediately. Your safety and well-being come first, full stop.
Another sign that points to unresolved core issues is that frustrating yo-yo relationship.
Ah, yes, the constant breaking up and getting back together.
What does that really signal?
It suggests the underlying issues, probably those value conflicts we talked about, are never actually being resolved.
You're just repeating a cycle.
You're repeating a cycle because the high of the reunion is addicting, but you always end up back at the same core problem.
You're holding on to the past or the potential.
Instead of dealing with the present reality.
And then there's the slow, insidious erosion of the foundation itself, trust. I want you to walk us through the stages of mistrust, because the sources detail this terrifyingly common progression.
Right. Trust doesn't just vanish. It breaks down in stages. It starts with doubt.
Just minor questions.
Minor questions about their truthfulness. That doubt then grows into suspicion, which is a belief in betrayal, but without any proof.
And that must cause so much anxiety.
Intense anxiety and fear. You're always looking over your shoulder. And finally, when you feel that unsafe, you emotionally withdraw.
And that's the end game.
The relationship just can't function without trust.
The last major red flag is the effort imbalance. I love how the sources describe it as feeling like you're constantly pushing shit uphill.
It's such a great visual. The relationship shouldn't be an emotional roller coaster, always hot and cold. If one partner is consistently sacrificing their own needs while the other just coasts, it breeds resentment in the giver and entitlement in the receiver.
And you're basically just dating yourself at that point.
While managing your partner. If you're the one putting in 90% of the effort just to keep things at zero, that is not sustainable.
So what's the rule of thumb here for the person who just thinks they need to try harder?
The sources suggest that if you spend over a year putting in consistent collaborative work to improve things, a whole year, and you're seeing little to no sustained improvement, it might be time to break things off. Effort should get results. If it doesn't, you're probably trying to solve a value problem with an effort solution.
And that never works.
Never.
Okay, so what about the relationships that might be salvageable?
Right, and we're excluding any with abuse here.
No.
The process has to begin with deep repair strategies. And number one is identifying the real problem.
Not the surface level fight.
Exactly. Think about that source example of couples screaming about the cap on the toothpaste. They aren't mad about the toothpaste.
No, they're mad because they feel unseen or disrespected.
That's the deeper resentment. So once you identify that real problem, how do you talk about it without making it worse?
Without triggering defensiveness.
Our sources offer 2 key rules for healthy communication. 1, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Meaning, focus on the behavior, not the person's character.
Exactly. Use I feel statements to describe your emotional reaction to their action.
And rule 2 is ditch the relationship scorecard.
Yes. If you bring up past issues or your tallying points about whose fault things are, you kill any chance of future progress.
The conversation stops being about solving the problem and starts being about winning.
And that's where professional counseling can act as a critical circuit breaker.
It gets you out of those ruts.
Exactly. If you're stuck in these cycles of bitterness and resentment, a third party can give you objective tools and help you see if the core issues are even resolvable.
But ultimately, you might realize they're not, and you decide to leave. And this brings us to the final hard part, enforcing boundaries.
This is where your actions have to line up with your words.
Because a boundary is only a boundary if you're willing to enforce it.
That's it. If you say you won't tolerate disrespect, but you stick around and tolerate it, then you do tolerate it. Your actions define your boundaries, not your words.
And if you do decide to end it, the sources really stress the need for clarity.
Do it in person if it's safe. Be clear, be honest. Avoid being vague or unnecessarily cruel.
You owe them the truth, but not a hurtful dissection of all their flaws.
Exactly. And crucially, you have to reassure yourself about what comes next. Breakups suck, no matter what.
It's okay to feel grief.
It is completely normal and okay to feel profound grief, anxiety, and depression. But that pain is temporary. It's the feeling of moving towards something better.
And that's the ultimate takeaway, isn't it?
I think so. You can deeply love someone, admire them, wish them well, and still know they're fundamentally not right for you. The goal is real love and happiness. And that is always worth the temporary pain of letting go.
We know that healthy relationships take work, but we need to ask ourselves a really crucial, provocative question that builds on all of this.
Okay.
If the work you're doing is primarily spent wrestling with your own intuition or fighting the same fundamental value conflict year after year, the one that's never going to change,
Yeah.
what exactly are you trying to protect?
Hmm.
Are you protecting the relationship? Or are you just protecting your fear of letting go of the past? Trust your own instinct. It's the truest navigation system you have.